watching Twin Tiers Evening News with Jeff Androlonis and Alexa Olson. Now, from the Twin Tiers' biggest broadcast news operation, WVTT proudly presents Twin Tiers Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Alexa Olson.
And I'm Jeff Androlonis. Good evening. The big story tonight on Twin Tiers Evening News. A sad milestone out of Syria. The UN is calling it a milestone in human tragedy. The number of refugees out of Syria now has reached 1 million souls. And at least in one refugee camp in Jordan, the number is doubling every couple of months. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh reports.
It may be hopeless here in the dust as one of an endless crowd of Syrian refugees, but surely you'd think it's better than going back to the horror of Syria. Not for these men, gathered on the edge, furious at the regime, powerless in their new lives. They begged Jordanian police to be allowed to go back over the border they once fled across. We brought our families here, he says, and secured them, and now we want to go back to Syria to be with the Free Syrian Army. The police won't let us leave. Only those who pay leave. All these men want to go. They claim the police want big money and endless papers, but the police don't want these men filmed.
Okay, I'm glad you catch us early, don't worry, that's fine. Okay, thanks, man.
Zaatari refugee camp here is now a problem without a solution. Sign-off tents to newcomers all day long, and still you have to pitch more. Never enough shelter or food for the endless families and children fleeing Syria's shelling, who still fear these aircraft as they monitor the border, even though they're Jordanian. The fear never lets up.
The story of this camp is in itself extraordinary, no matter whose figures you listen to. And some say there are as many as 150,000 people living here. This camp has doubled in size in just the last 2 months, and it risks a similar increase in the months ahead because some nights as many as 3,000 people turn up here. Now, since we've been driving, all the tents you've seen were not here at the start of the year.
One night, 90 injured flooded in, heaping trauma over trauma. This woman unhurt, but shaking for the loss of her mother. And this elderly lady from the city of Dara explains how regime soldiers dragged her out of her home and then torched it, all because her sons are rebel fighters. She was alone, and they shot her in the legs.
One bullet into here. You see where it went in. And it cracked all the bones right here.
Such anger and pain, it cannot be absorbed or lost, even in a barren purgatory the size of a city. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, Zaatari refugee camp, Jordan.
A prominent figure in Olean is accused of paying fewer taxes than she should be. WVTT's Valerie Tysianer spoke to local officials today to find out what happened.
New York State Senator Kathy Young is accused of double dipping for tax relief, but she says it's not her fault. You can see behind me her Olean home, which is one of the homes that she did claim for tax relief. The New York State Assessors Association says New York State Senator Catherine Young double dipped on star tax relief. Young filed exemptions for both her primary residence, this Olean home, and a condo located near Hudson Valley Community College. The STAR tax program lets owners exempt part of their primary residence from school taxes, but only one home can be claimed for tax exemption. Senator Young says she just found out that 2 homes were being claimed. In a statement sent by email, Young says, quote, "My husband handles all our financial matters, and immediate action is being taken to correct it." Olean assessor Nancy Champlin says she found out about this 2 weeks ago from the New York State assessor. And it is her understanding that Senator Young will be renouncing her condo in Greenbush, New York, so she will not have to take any further action. New York State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli released an audit this week saying that about 20% of the STAR tax exemptions were granted improperly.
For more on her story, check out WVTTnews.com and our Facebook page, facebook.com/WVTTnews, and let us know what you think.
Alexa, Cattaraugus County may pay the town of Portville nearly $300,000 to take over a 2.6-mile stretch of road. We're talking about Wolf Run Road, and the county legislature's Public Works Committee gave tentative approval last night to include the stretch of Wolf Run Road that lies between Haskell Road and the Allegheny County line and put it into the County Road Exchange Program. Now, the town of Portville would receive $110,000 for each mile of road that it agrees to take over. So far, the county has returned more than a half dozen roads to various towns since 1992 at a total cost of $1.2 million.
Well, Jeff, no bids at yesterday's sheriff's sale for the former tuna mill property in Bradford. WVTT News Radio was the first to tell you about a fire at the tuna mill a little over a year ago on January 11th, 2012. Now, $500,000 of damage was reported to the historic building on Charlotte Avenue that had housed the tuna manufacturing company since 1909. At Wednesday's sheriff's sale, that property, along with two other properties in Bradford owned by Michael Steinhauser, were put to auction. No taker, so the properties now go back to CNB Bank.
More information about that Coudersport attorney who was cleared of serious charges in an alleged baby for cash scheme. Last week, Northumberland County President Judge Robert Sakovich issued orders to dismiss the charges against attorney Jarrett Rand Smith, Krista Sam Eveland, Jerome Robert Smith, and Eileen Rivka Smith. The four defendants each filed motions between May and June, asking that the cases be dismissed under Rule 600, which protects a defendant's right to a speedy trial. It appears a fifth defendant, Donna Albright Smith, did not file a motion and is still facing charges. Jarrett Smith and Donna Albright Smith were married at the time, accused of offering Krista Eveland money in 2009 if she would allow Jerome and Eileen Smith to adopt the Eveland baby. Charges were first filed in May 2011.
Cattaraugus County Public Health Director Kevin Watkins says flu shots were ineffective this year for some residents. Though the county had 0 influenza-related deaths on the record, the flu vaccine this year targeted influenza A, which included H1N1 and H3N2 and influenza B. Watkins said it was found to be 56% effective for all age groups, but only 27% effective for older county residents.
At least 2 more years of life for that big coal-fired power plant in Dunkirk, New York. It's the largest taxpayer in Chautauqua County, and it was mothballed last September, reducing its 4 active generators down to 2. The 2 remaining generators were to be reassessed May 31st, but on a recent threat of closure, plant owner NRG Energy signed an agreement with National Grid to keep 1 generator running at partial capacity for at least 2 years. Now, National Grid has agreed to pay at least $72 million to NRG Energy to continue running that last generator. NRG Energy is in the midst of a $714 million proposal to turn the 520-megawatt plant into a gas-fired plant. Proposals are due March 19th for review.
Saving money in government. It's always a good thing when politicians find a way to do that. A Pennsylvania state rep from McKean County has a plan that could save some cash by combining 2 similar state agencies, Fish and Game. It could be one entity in Pennsylvania soon, and House and Fish Game Committee Chairman Marty Causer says the right to fish and hunt may soon become a state constitutional right.
Today we had the first voting meeting of the House Game and Fisheries Committee. We were able to move through 3 pieces of legislation, the first being the constitutional amendment to insert into the Constitution the right to hunt and fish as a constitutionally protected right, and I think that that's very important. It sends a strong message that the committee is serious about protecting that right, and that being the first bill we considered. A constitutional amendment has to pass in 2 sessions of the legislature and also be voted on by the voters before it would be inserted in the Constitution. So it's a lengthy process, but it really needs to be a lengthy process. But I think this is a step in the right direction.
Causer has also introduced a resolution calling for a study to assess the pros and cons of merging the Pennsylvania Game Commission and the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. According to Causer, Pennsylvania is the only state in the nation where management and oversight of fishing, boating, and wildlife activities are managed by 2 separate independent agencies.
A New York nonprofit is set to help lower-income folks pay for food for their pets. It's called PetFoodStamps.com. Federal and state assistance funds cannot be used to purchase pet food, so a local organization thought they would step up to fill the hole, as their website says. That website has an application where residents can request assistance to purchase food for their pets. The program is funded entirely by charitable donations from individuals and companies. Coming up on Twin Tiers Evening News, our first look at weather. I'll also have WVTT's information overload and the latest closing numbers from Wall Street. All still to come as Twin Tiers Evening News continues here on News Channel 25 WVTT.